This ever happened to you? You're making your way downtown, walking fast, faces pass, and nature calls. So now you're walking really fast because you really need to find a bathroom. And the problem? Well, if you're anywhere in North America, that is a very difficult task. Ugh. So, to be clear, the public bathroom that I'm talking about is one that is accessible to anyone for free. Not if you buy a coffee or a donut, not if you ask really nicely, free. And cities across North America really struggle to provide them. They're annoyingly missing in places you'd expect them. Public spaces, busy streets, and transit stations. The few that are free to use almost always close in the evening and aren't easy to find unless you know exactly where to go. Case in point, in my hometown of Vancouver, there is just one bathroom across the entire transit system. Just one. Located here at Waterfront Station. And you think it'd be somewhere convenient, like, I don't know, the lobby? But no, to get to this one bathroom, you have to go through the fare gates, across a pedestrian bridge, down a set of escalators, through a tunnel, past another set of gates, and if you haven't peed yourself already, you'll find it in the back corner. Yeah, it's a real pain in the butt. I'm sorry about that, but I imagine you can relate. This is a problem pretty much anywhere you go across North America. If you're looking for a bathroom, you're better off going into a cafe, a fast food restaurant, or a bush. But this isn't the case everywhere. In Paris, the city of love and lavatories, there are over 400 freestanding public bathrooms across the city. In London, almost half the tube stations have a public bathroom, which adds a whole new meaning to the term tube station. And in Tokyo, public bathrooms are not only plentiful, they are often beautiful works of art, winning prizes and international recognition the world over. Like, wow. Oh, wow, you seeing this? So what's the deal? What's stopping us from providing more public bathrooms? Well, to some extent, the answer is pretty simple. It's money. Public bathrooms are surprisingly expensive, not just to buy, but to install. Each one needs connections to electricity, running water, sewage pipes, and the durability to withstand Canadian winters. This easily adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. In Vancouver, the park board recently made headlines for budgeting $645,000 for a single toilet, which might sound insane, but that's just how much they cost. Montreal spent over $500,000 on one of these bad boys, while Toronto got theirs for $450,000. A relative bargain, I guess. But building a bathroom is also just a fraction of the total cost. Once you've opened a public bathroom, congratulations, now you get to maintain and clean it indefinitely. It's a cost that typically amounts to tens of thousands of dollars per toilet every year. And it makes sense. If you think your 3 roommates can't keep a toilet clean, try hundreds to thousands of different people every day. But money isn't the whole story. After all, we justify high costs for plenty of other things, many of them arguably less useful than a bathroom. There's another issue here. The truth of the matter is that public bathrooms can be more than just places to use the toilets. According to a research paper from the University of Toronto, vandalism, drug use, and sexual activity are named as leading reasons for the closure of existing public toilets and the reluctance to provide additional ones. I don't think that should surprise too many people. Public bathrooms can be kind of gritty, and sometimes they are the scene of serious incidents. In 2018, there were 23 overdose deaths recorded in public bathrooms across British Columbia. Those are genuine concerns many people have about public bathrooms, and in some cities, that has led to an interesting solution. Allow me to introduce you to the APT, the Automated Public Toilet. It's a sensor-filled, button-activated robot toilet from the future. This toilet cleans itself after each use, while the structure enforces a time limit for how long you can stay inside it. On top of that, many of these toilets are built by private corporations who pay for these toilets by selling advertising on them. That's right, your flush is now brought to you by neoliberalism. So with APTs, corporations take care of the cost, while technology makes sure these bathrooms are used as intended. Problem solved, right? Well, perhaps in theory, but in practice, these APTs have been anything but perfect. It turns out the automatic cleaning system is still no match for a human being that's determined to make a mess, and relying on corporations to provide them often means they get the bare minimum amount of maintenance. What you often end up with instead is a very expensive toilet with all the same issues of a traditional one. Case in point, Seattle. After spending over $5 million on 5 APTs, the city eventually shut them all down because they were filthy and not being used as intended. The bathrooms themselves ended up being sold on eBay. So at this point, I would understand if you thought it was basically impossible to provide a usable public bathroom. But hear me out, I don't think that's actually the issue here. There's something I began to notice while putting this video together. Public bathrooms are gritty because they are rarely well maintained. I looked into this. A typical public bathroom gets cleaned once to twice a day. Meanwhile, a bathroom in a restaurant, which limits its use to its patrons, gets cleaned up to 10 times a day and is constantly supervised. The results really speak for themselves. So at the end of the day, it really does come down to money. High-quality public bathrooms are absolutely possible through frequent maintenance and cleaning. But cities just don't seem to prioritize this. And why is that? Well, I think that's where we get to the very root of this issue. In most cities, there are laws that require certain businesses to provide bathrooms for customers. Typically, those businesses are restaurants, cafes, and gas stations. That has created a de facto network of bathrooms and businesses across the city that can be accessed by the public. And because of that, cities have been able to offload much of the responsibility of taking care of our private business to the private sector. That is an inconvenient system, sure, but for most of us, it's ultimately one that we can tolerate. We have bathrooms in our homes, in our workplaces, and in a pinch, inside a business. Public bathrooms are a nice to have, but not a necessity. I think this is ultimately why public bathrooms suck in North America. Cities here developed with the understanding that toilets are a private responsibility, and that has allowed governments to put in the bare minimum amount of effort into providing the public ones. But this creates a disturbing dynamic. Because most of us have access to clean private bathrooms while our public bathrooms tend to be disgusting, that has led many to stigmatize public bathrooms and those who use them, which makes the problem much worse. It turns out one of the biggest barriers to building a public bathroom is actually because neighboring businesses and residents actively resist them being built nearby. It's not that they don't want public bathrooms, they don't want the people associated with them. The truth is, we have a pretty long history of finding ways to exclude underprivileged groups of people from certain public areas, like these benches that keep you from lying down on them, or these heat vents with spikes. Our lack of public bathrooms is sadly a part of this tradition. Urban theorist Mike Davis argues that public toilets are the real front line of the city's war on the homeless. But I can't stress this enough. That approach has widespread consequences. Children, pregnant people, senior citizens, and those with certain medical conditions need to use bathrooms frequently. For them, a lack of public bathrooms can be a huge barrier to leaving their home. Professions like taxi drivers, food delivery workers, and local urban planning videographers suffer from a lack of public toilets too. The average person pees 6 to 8 times a day, so it's really not practical for workers in these industries to pay for a coffee or a donut every time they have to relieve themselves. Many taxi and Uber drivers report peeing in bottles instead to get through the day. But perhaps the most seriously affected are the homeless. For them, a public bathroom is really the only reliable option they have to relieve themselves and practice basic hygiene. When there are none available, they often have no other choice but to relieve themselves on the street, and that can have widespread implications. In San Diego, an outbreak of hepatitis A that killed 25 people was linked back to fecal matter in public places. A grand jury report investigating the outbreak found that the primary problem was that the homeless did not have access to public toilets. For me, this highlights a huge flaw with our current system. By relying on businesses to provide bathrooms for the public, we have created serious gaps for those who need public bathrooms the most, all while creating a public health risk for everyone. And it's not that businesses don't have a role to play in providing bathrooms. Like, yeah, if you have a space that convenes lots of people together, you probably should have a bathroom available. But if that logic applies to a restaurant or a gas station, why shouldn't it apply to a transit station or a public space? It doesn't matter where you are. When you have to go, you have to go. In those moments, you realize that bathrooms are a necessity. So maybe it's about time we started treating them that way.